We have a pretty good crowd. Today we got Malcolm talk about censorship and how to do. I heard this talk already, but I'm not gonna. No spoiler, but I'll let him take it away.
Awesome, thank you, sir. Maybe the clicky thing, just because it's a new toy. I want to play with it. So, hello everyone. Hello, DEFCON Halifax. Allow myself to introduce myself. I'm Malcolm MacDonald, and tonight going to give a little talk about Bridges and Snowflakes and how you can fight censorship from the luxury of your own backyard. Part 2, although technically this is actually part 3, because this is the third variation of this talk. It's kind of like Doctor Who, it's regenerating itself. So first of all, please note the opinions and information presented in this talk are my own personal views and not those of my employer or anyone else, not even my wife or family. I am in no way the official spokesperson for my employer or anyone else, and even I would debate even if I'm my own official spokesperson. So let's kick this off. Those of you who don't know me, I've been doing IT work for about 25 years in IT operations, point of sale support, tech support, everything from PCs, networks, servers, you name it, and cybersecurity. I've worked in the nonprofit, for-profit, and public sectors. I've done IT work all over North America, except for being in the Yukon. I've done every province and territory, as well as Alaska. It's kind of fun. Don't recommend trying to do installs in -60 weather, a little cold. I am less than 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon, which is really nothing to do with tonight, but kind of a fun fact. I have kissed the Blarney Stone, so if I babble on and get off topic, I'm gonna blame that. If you have questions, email, and on Mastodon. So before anything tonight, I want to thank some people for helping with this talk over the years and getting me on my way. John Blanchard, for those of you who know him, Gurjeet Claire, don't know where he's at, as well as Julien Savoie. These guys have all provided some insight and terrific feedback and directions on kind of where to go with this. In the original genesis, this was actually going to be a potential article to 2600 magazine, but it kind of morphed from there. So what this is and what this isn't. This is not going to be an overview of Tor, its history, things like that, strengths, weaknesses, etc. You guys should know what Tor is because this is DEFCON Halifax. And if you don't know what Tor is, DuckDuckGo is your friend. What this talk is a story of an IT geek who is most comfortable in the Windows world and decided to get involved with the Tor project and teach myself Linux along the way. You're either part of the problem, part of the solution, or just part of the landscape. I wanted to be part of the solution. So let us dig right in. So before we begin, I'd like to present this visual depiction of my first attempt at setting up a Linux box. I hope the audio works. So, again, not quite as dramatic. All right, so to begin, history of violence, also known as my personal history with Linux. That old that my very first foray with Linux was Corel Linux, for those of us who actually remember it. It was a really nice, pleasant looking operating system, very, very comparable to Windows. It was based on Debian, and it was incredibly easy to install for someone who'd never touched Linux before. You could actually dual boot off of a PC with it with Windows, which in the late 90s was an incredibly revolutionary idea, and it worked great. It was a potential viable alternative to the Windows operating system, but a couple factors were against it. There was very little commercial Linux software support or applications at the time. And 𝗙𝗲𝗄𝗱 discontinued the software in the year of 2001, specifically August. And that was the magical time for those of us who are old enough to remember the .com bubble. So it died, and unfortunately, it should have had longer legs, but it didn't. The next time I started trying to play with Linux again was Ubuntu, around 2010 when I was working at Sobeys. And at the time, you could actually get these really, just testing out the laser because I can, you get these really cool CDs in the mail. Didn't have to worry about any fancy burning CDs, CD-ROMs. Just go on the website, plug in your credentials, and they'd ship you this CD in the mail. So started playing around with it, and was actually able to, again, dual boot, do some neat stuff. A couple tools I found that I could monitor our network with, and managed to piss off a few people at the networking team in IT security at Sobeys because this hadn't been cleared by them, and they didn't really support Ubuntu. They were a Unix shop, but not Ubuntu, so that went away. But it was great because you could put any person's name on their website, send them CDs. So a lot of people I knew got random Ubuntu discs in the mail. Next time I started playing with it was the different version, Linux Mint. I was working as an IT manager at a nursing home, and actually deployed it as a learning PC in the organization. Had a couple older machines, was able to get 4 working machines out of the spare parts, and Windows wouldn't run very well on it, but I put Linux Mint on there, and it was terrific. Visually similar to Windows, so where you have staff who aren't technical, the transition was very smooth. It worked, it just installed, and it was great. All the apps that they used were web-based, so again, no problem. The only real hitch, there was a staff scheduling system that they used. It required Microsoft Silverlight to run, which is a pain in the tuchus. So I had to end up installing Wine first and then getting it to run. It was tricky. It took a little bit of standing on one foot, rubbing your belly, patting your head to get it to work. But when it did, it worked terrific. And again, it was presented to management and it was accepted as a viable solution for training. And had I stayed there longer, it would have been potentially rolled out to workstations for the nurses. Again, it worked great. And when I left, the machines were still running, and it just worked great. Again, working for a large multinational company based in Halifax, they needed a solution for running a security camera in their server room. So I ended up, again, installing Linux Mint, putting the camera system on that, and it worked. It just worked great. Again, no problems with installing. It just installed, and it went working great. And again, when I left the organization, it was running smooth. Don't know how it is now, but when I left, it was working great. And my current position, using both Ubuntu and Debian for our environment, again, both work great. Professionally, that's what we're using, as well as my home lab environment. That's what I'm using as well. So when I started looking at trying to help out the Tor project and learn Linux, it was, again, COVID. COVID had started and had a bit of free time on my hand. Even though we had a newborn, there was still a lot of downtime. So this all, again, started because Gurjeet had been able to give me an old Raspberry Pi. Started playing with that, and again, oh no, you helped me. You helped me along this journey. It was great. So again, the Raspberry Pi was kind of old, a little bit slow. So wanted to see about trying to get a replacement for it. But in the fun early days of COVID, Raspberry Pis were very non-existent. So I looked for alternatives and was able to actually look at using Wise terminals as a replacement. Again, small hard drive, RAM, plenty of RAM for it, and it worked. So I was able to get 2 of them online through eBay for $50. and I got 2 of them, got them set up. Again, one of them died in the project along the way, so I was able to get it replaced with a slightly newer Wise terminal. And under the hood, again, small PC, dual. The first one was a dual core processor, 2 gig of RAM, and a 16 gig drive. The newer one had a quad core processor, more RAM, but less hard drive space. So don't understand why that was done, but it worked. It worked great. So, and at one point of this project, I had 4 Wise terminals and 8 desktops on my home network for this. 2 of the Wise terminals have since died, and I handed off 2 others to a DEFCON member so they could do some self-learning. And I've downsized most of my fleet. So right now I've got 4 PCs, all running Debian at home, 2 Dell PCs and 2 Mac Minis. Also running 5 VMs on the newer Dell PC that are running minimized version of Ubuntu, as well as I have a Debian VPS in Ireland. So that's great. Got the gear there. So with the project, the Tor project, you can do one of two things, and I'm doing both. You can either start a Snowflake proxy, or you can set up a relay server. So if you don't have a lot of time and maybe want to get your feet wet gently, doing the Snowflake proxy is a little bit is an easier step. And there's actually 3 ways you can run a Snowflake proxy. You can install a browser plugin on most browsers. You can set up your own Snowflake proxy server, or you can set up a Tor relay bridge. So I'll kind of go over the 3 different options. So again, before I started this, when I started this, I went to AI and I humorously put in, what's involved? Can you depict setting up a Tor server or a Tor relay server? And this is what the AI came up for generation. I thought it was kind of humorous. So, and it was simply, the definition was a computer geek setting up a Tor relay, Canadian computer geek. I think it's kind of funny that the geese are in both videos chasing the poor lad. All right. So what is a Snowflake proxy server, or Snowflake can't even talk tonight. What is a Snowflake proxy and how does it work? So Tor Snowflake works by creating a network of volunteer proxies called relays to allow users to circumvent censorship. When you install Snowflake proxy on your machine, either the web browser plugin or Snowflake proxy server, what that will do is you'll allow your computer to use web RTC, real-time communications, to connect directly to a Snowflake relay. And when a user in a censored region tries to access the Tor network, they connect to one of the available proxies via web RTC. The connection allows the user to send traffic through the Snowflake proxy to the Tor network. Within the Snowflake acts as an intermediary, forwarding the encrypted data of the user traffic to the Tor network. The user's data is processed in the usual Tor fashion, and the Snowflake proxy's role is to simply act as a bridge to allow the user to enter the Tor network from a restricted region. Off your monitor traffic on your home network, you're going to mostly see web RTC and encrypted TLS traffic when your machine is acting as a proxy. Web real-time communication it's an open source project providing web browser and mobile applications real-time communication via APIs. Allows audio and video communication and streaming to work inside web pages by allowing direct peer-to-peer communication, eliminating the need to install plugins or download native apps. So, when you're monitoring your home traffic, you will see encrypted traffic, but nothing specific that would alert anyone. Give you an idea, just again, with why doing this. Someone I know who years ago, they were in Turkey for a conference. And Turkey, of course, is a repressive regime, and they censor their internet. And someone in where they were at in the city had spray painted Google's DNS on walls. They had graffitied it. And this person was actually detained by Turkish authorities as they were leaving the country on suspicion of spraying the graffiti. They did not, but again, it wasn't, this was nothing fancy like Tor. This was just someone being provided Google DNS as opposed to the government communications DNS as a way to get around the censorship. So it's quite eye-opening to see what can happen in these countries. So easy to set up a Snowflake proxy. So why should you care about running a Tor relay server or a proxy server? Privacy and freedom are human rights. These rights are denied online all around the world, but Tor gives them back to people. Privacy isn't about having something to hide. Privacy is about protecting who we are as human beings, our fears, our relationships, and our vulnerabilities. Who here has a fence around their house? Who here locks their doors when they leave the house? Again, these are all attempts to protect your personal privacy and your personal space. So why wouldn't you want these protections online? Everyone should have private access to open internet, but not everyone is able to enjoy that luxury that Tor provides. Freedom to publish, share, and access information online is critical for a healthy society. And yet governments and entities all around the world deny people this universal human right. And the relays that make up the Tor network are publicly listed, so it means one way organizations try to prevent people from using Tor is to blacklist the public IP addresses of all the thousands of Tor relays. However, thanks to 𝗙𝗲𝗱 Bridges, relay bridges, I'll shorten that, Tor users are still able to connect to the network when the public Tor relays are blacklisted. Bridges are private Tor relays that serve as a stepping stone for people to get into the Tor network. Not only are bridges private, but they can also modify their network packets in a way that it's difficult for an observer to conclude that someone is using Tor. By setting up a bridge, you can help censored users connect to the open internet through Tor. So again, I said I wasn't going to go over Tor, but just to differentiate the different types of relays on the network. Guard and middle relays. A guard relay is the first hop in the Tor circuit. A middle relay is a relay that acts as a secondary hop in the Tor circuit. To become a guard relay, the relay has to be stable and fast. They recommend at least 2 megabytes of upstream and downstream bandwidth, otherwise it'll just remain a middle relay. Guard and middle relays usually do not receive abuse complaints from ISPs. However, all relays are listed in the public Tor relay directory, and as a result, they can be blacklisted by ISPs and governments. Now, again, not a legal person here, not giving any legal opinions, but exit relays are the final relay in the Tor circuit, and they're the ones that sends traffic out to its destination. This services Tor clients that are connecting to a website, chat services, email provider, etc., and they will see the IP address of the exit relay instead of the real IP address of the Tor user. Exit relays have the greatest legal exposure and liability of all the relays because of the potential legal exposure that comes with running an exit relay. You shouldn't run one from home. Most exit relays are run from universities, very large nonprofits, things like that. The ideal exit relay operators are affiliated with an institution like a university, library, hackerspace, or privacy-related organization. An institution can not only provide greater bandwidth for the exit, but is better positioned to handle abuse complaints or the rare law enforcement inquiry. Again, bridges, what I'm talking about, the design of the Tor network means the IP address of the Tor relays, guard, middle, and exit are public. However, one of the ways Tor can be blocked by government or ISPs is using these public IP addresses. Bridges are not listed in the public Tor directory, which makes it harder for organizations to block them. They're relatively easy, low risk and low bandwidth nodes to operate, but they have a big impact on users. A bridge isn't going to likely to receive any abuse complaints, and since bridges are not listed in public, they're unlikely to be blacklisted by popular services. Again, bridges are a great option if you only run a Tor node from your home network, have only one static IP, and don't have a large amount of bandwidth to donate. So back to our Snowflake proxies. If you're not technical or don't have a lot of time to operate a dedicated proxy, the best way is to run it on a single browser extension. Once you've installed the extension, it automatically accepts connections from users trying to circumvent censorship when you have your browser open. You click on the add-ons icon and it'll show you the number of people who've connected to your browser-based proxy in the last 24 hours. And that screenshot was taken yesterday. So kind of cool. Second way you can run a Snowflake proxy is on a dedicated box. Very, very easy to run. Now again, I'm just including the Debian Ubuntu steps. So step one, prepare an Ubuntu or Debian server. I'll go over that in a little bit. You install the Snowflake proxy with literally one line. This starts the service and this enables the service, and then you simply can monitor your traffic. You don't have to open any ports on your firewall, no special configurations, nothing. Works easy peasy, lemon squeezy, as they like to say. And literally, once your service is up and running, again, the screenshot taken a few days ago, it will show you the number of connections your server has received in the last number of hours. So this was, let's see here, this was done on November 25th. The time's a little, it's not, I wasn't actually doing a screenshot at like 2:15 or starting at 2:15, but this will show you the last number of hours. You've got 19 connections, traffic up, traffic down. Easy to set up. So this is just my home, just to illustrate my home network. I have Bell as my internet service provider. Comes into firewall, unified device. I've got my PCs here, and I've got 3 physical servers actually running Snowflake proxy. So the 2 Mac Minis and the older Dell, all running the service. And then on the bigger Dell, I've got 5 Ubuntu server VMs running Snowflake proxies. So technically I have 8 proxies running from my home, and I generate anywhere from 2.5 to 3 terabytes of traffic a month. And that's just all Snowflake traffic. I originally had been running the relay server on there, but had some challenges, so I'll go over that. So going back to the low-end Raspberry Pi Wise terminal, which distro to run. So again, low-end PC, Wise terminal, did some testing. I ended up coming to selecting Ubuntu Server Minimized. When you go through the install process of Ubuntu Server, it'll ask you if you want to do a full deployment or a minimized, and the minimized service is ideal for low-end PCs, uses less disk space, needs less memory and CPU, and it only includes the essential packages. Again, for those that are worried about such things, fewer installed packages means a smaller attack surface and reducing the risk of vulnerabilities. And very easy to secure, as it only has the necessary services running, and fewer updates, fewer dependencies, easier to configure. So to do the install, all I did was install on the machine. If you do buy any Dell Wise terminals, you either have to press F2 or F12 to boot into the BIOS, and it will it asks for a password. The default password for some reason is Fireport. No idea why they chose that, but that is literally the password. You install the OS and reboot, and all I did to get these machines running was install Nano, because I'm an idiot and I don't like Vim. Uncomplicated firewall, bash completion because when you install the unminimize, it doesn't allow you to do tab and fill the rest of the command. Install advanced tools because with Ubuntu, if you put in, you can get a 5 if you put in a personal email, or I forget the exact wording. Anyways, Advantage Tools, they'll allow you a free tier of 5 machines. So this allows you to get priority updates. Fail to ban, just in case someone tries to log in. My old man's from 𝗙𝗲𝗁𝗱, which is why I just picked that for the time zone. Again, ClamAV and Cockpit, just so you can go to a web GUI and manage it. And we need more Lemon Pledge. So that's fine for low-end machines, but if you have a PC, even a 14-year-old device that's an i5, 8 gig of RAM, and decent sized solid state, it can handle Debian. And yes, a 14-year-old Mac Mini will take Debian 13. When installing, when you go through the process, I just picked Mate because it's friendly looking and easy. SSH and system utilities, that's literally the only options you need to install. And then because I am lazy and run these headless, I enable RDP on it so I can connect to it from my desk. So why Debian and not Ubuntu? Again, please don't throw anything at me if you have strong opinions one way or the other. But Debian is more stable because the packages are older, they're more thoroughly tested, which means there's fewer unexpected changes. Again, I've had this conversation with other people, but sometimes when you do updates via Ubuntu, it breaks stuff and then you have to try and roll it back. Haven't had that problem with Debian. Debian, for the people who care about such thing, is run by volunteers and has a constitution, not a company. Looking at Ucanical, they have, people don't like snaps, Unity. A few years ago, they did Amazon search integration, which really kicked off a lot of people. And again, it's a corporation as opposed to a volunteer run organization. Debian is viewed as a little more neutral and it's minimal by default. Again, it works great. Ford versus Chevy argument, I get that, but again, I'm running Debian or Linux Mint Debian Edition at home. Other than that, this machine, and I am very aware of the irony of presenting a talk on Linux running it off of Windows because Microsoft has yet to develop a full-fat client for Office. I don't care what anybody says, LibreOffice is not the same as Microsoft Office. And web version of Office isn't the same as a full-fat client. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. So again, whatever flavor of Debian, Ubuntu is great. Eastlink versus Bell. Again, Ford versus Chevy argument. I'm running Bell FiberOp at home. If you run your relay off of a Home Hub 4000, you need to open 2 ports on your Home Hub 4000 to your Tor relay server if you are running a relay and not the Snowflake. If you decide to put it behind your own firewall router like I do, it's a bit more work and it will involve double NATing. It's ugly, but it does work. The big difference is when you do that to enable the double NATing, you won't be able to look at your router and see your public IP. It'll be whatever IP address the Home Hub 4000 assigns you. So it's a bit icky. But again, you'll need to assign an internal IP address to your firewall and then open up the ports on your Home Hub 4000 to that IP address. And then on your firewall, you'll have to open up the same ports as well to get the traffic flowing. And as much as people love to hate Bell, it is the better ISP compared to Eastlink. But Eastlink, cable internet, be it Eastlink, when I wrote this, Citywide were not bought out yet. So Eastlink, Purple Cow, Citywide, whatever, they use a real firewall / router for port forwarding. The Hitron gear sucks butt. It's awful. But the cool thing about Eastlink is you can put it in real bridge mode, which is a good thing when you're operating your own firewall. Again, that's literally the only good thing about their service. If you can afford Bell, go Bell. Eastlink has been awful in the HRM of the last few years, and that's been a challenge. Again, speaking from personal experience, paying for the 300 meg tier and barely getting 50 down, that's a bit problematic, same as not having the upload. Hopefully Eastlink will see this video and be encouraged to change this, but I highly doubt that. Again, whatever your choice is. So if you want to take the bull by the horns like I did and actually run a Tor relay bridge, you prep your Ubuntu server or Debian server, you enable automatic updates, and there you configure your machine to use the Tor repository. You install Tor, you install the OBFS4 proxy. There's a file called tor.rc that you edit, and in there it'll change whatever port you're using for this. You do need 2 ports. Contact info and nickname are in there as well. You restart the service, and then you start monitoring your logs. Again, referencing the very first video with Mr. Microwave, that was my first attempt doing this as well. It didn't work, but eventually got it to work, and it worked great. The biggest challenge was just, again, using Bell. The throughput wasn't there, and they weren't of much service trying to troubleshoot the issue, so ended up going a slightly different path. But once you've installed your bridge, you again run the journal command, and it'll actually show you how many clients you've seen since reboot. So, and then you can actually go to the metrics website. It will show, oh shoot. You go there, I just took out the name, it'll show you your Tor relay name, the hashed fingerprint of that, as well as all kinds of great information, the advertised bandwidth, the protocol, again, uptime, all the great flags. And then right below that, it'll actually show you the history of the bridge. It'd be in 1 month, 6 month, or a year. This relay was actually spun up at the end of May, and it's actually running as a VPS in Ireland. I lucked in, I found a provider that charges me $11 a year for a single instance. Now this thing has like 2 gig of RAM, I think 8 gig of space, but the biggest feature is its unlimited bandwidth. So it's terrific, and like I said, $11 a year US, and they just renewed it for $11. So it's terrific, and again, it's just remote into it. If you do something like that, if you're going to SSH into it, use RSA as opposed to actual SSH logins, because it's insane. I should have done a screen capture of the number of login attempts on this box. It's insane the number of banned IPs that I have and failed to ban. I think the last time I looked, it's like 4,000 IP addresses are banned. And it's just because it's, boom, out there on the internet. So again, this will show you the traffic. I'm not sure why, but like I said, I'm average about, I think I looked, and it's like normally around 5 to 10 people are connecting to it. So again, it's a small thing, but it's making a difference for some people. But I don't know what was going on at the end of June. It spiked over, I had like 25 people connecting to it, and then just dropped after that. So whatever. But yeah, any questions? Why? Why not? Like I said, you're either part of the problem, part of the solution, or part of the landscape. And we're very lucky in Canada having our internet access and rights that we do have. Other places aren't that lucky, and I can't go over to those places and help out. A lot of places, nor would I, because I'm allergic to bullets. But this is a way we can help, and it's something we can do. It's low effort. Like you set it up, pretty much, and forget it. Like I log into this machine, this VPS in Ireland, once a month, just because I'm nosy. It's set up for automatic updates. It just runs. So this is a very low effort thing to do, but it has a really big impact. And it's just a way to give back and just help the world and help the global community. If someone somewhere can get some good out of this, then it's worth the effort. Absolutely. It's like I said, it started just as a learning project, just because, hanging around this people in the community, there's a lot smarter people with, Unix and Linux than I am. And it's like, hey, I'd like to have a better understanding of what people are doing. So doing all this, again, am I to the level of, say, certain people who are like, in the back row? Absolutely not. But I can have intelligent conversations about this. And again, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but at work, a lot of people come to me, and I've been involved with some Linux-based projects because I was like, oh, okay, you can answer one or two questions about this, and it's led to some very cool projects at work. But again, this is something I just, part of it was just, what? After your baby wakes up in the middle of the night, you fed them, they've gone back to bed. I can't get back to sleep. I might as well do something. So that's part of where what the genesis of this was.
Just my second question. So, with regards to, a lot of people that work in the security industry, so with regards to this stuff, and I appreciate the privacy side of things, but it's getting harder for people in the security world to keep, I guess, people safe. So, is this a way in which it makes it more difficult for people that are responsible for keeping people safe? Like, they don't have any visibility into things. And I know that's maybe a loaded question, but I mean, how do people, keep people safe if there's nefarious activity happening on something that no one has any visibility?
How was it done before this? There was nefarious stuff that happened before Tor was invented. There was nefarious stuff that happened on the web. Web 1.0. There's stuff that happens. The thing is, this here, it doesn't matter what it is. There will always be the, kind of spy versus spy. One person there will be the advantage, and then go from there. It's, you just have to look at at the end of the day, if someone really wanted to get information, like be it a nation state or something like that, they have the resources. This is something here. Yes, nefarious stuff happens, but again, nefarious stuff was hosted back on the day in FTP, things like that. So yes, there's out there, and people do nefarious things with stuff that's meant for good. Again, look at people driving cars, perfectly normal, but sometimes people do bad things with vehicles. It's one of those things. It is what it is. But again, people, when it comes down to it, a lot of these situations, I think if people wanted to do something really bad, they won't necessarily go where they know there may be eyes on them. They take stuff offline, and things like that. But this here, again, this is, like I said, journalists use this to communicate safely. People, dissidents, and you just look at yesterday, was it in Syria? You see what happened during the Assad regime. They're releasing all these photos of people. They catalog the people that they executed. And this is the type of stuff that people having access to this, they can, during these times. I'm not saying things are any better nowadays, but this helps people get their message out and be able to, provide some form of communication out. Again, yes, it is a loaded question, but no. There's no such thing as a bad question. But at the end of the day, this is something that when people are oppressed, if this is a tool they can use, great. And again, there's always other avenues for the people to prevent bad things from happening. It's just, this isn't the single source of stuff happening.
Yes, about the data itself, sent or received. As far as I know, you told us the data is encrypted. What extra measures should we take into account, not to have our personal information safe, because everyone has, but maybe, let's say, to avoid our ISP from flagging our connection.
That's the beauty of this. Like when you look at the, hang on just a sec here. me see here if I can connect into home. Like the traffic, it looks, or here. There we go. So the traffic simply looks at, where is it here? It just looks like SSL TLS traffic. That, like, I'm looking at my phone, one device here. It's literally SSL and stun, which is like multimedia. That's all. That's what it looks like on the router, like my firewall, and that's what the ISP sees as well. Now, again, with the and there's no ports that need to be opened on the firewall or anything like that. It's just simply web traffic. That's all it looks like.
Is there also a second question? Is there any safety difference security for the user, for the owner of the relay? Is there any difference between having a browser extension, having physical, and having a physical device for relay?
No, from what I've seen and just my own personal experience, it all sees the traffic. Doesn't matter if it's the browser plugin or dedicated server. It's all the same traffic. It's just looking like SSL, TLS, or stun traffic. That's it. It's just having the, I just again did the PC simply because it was a self-learning project. Like at first, when the very first version of it was like, oh, I'll create a virtual machine so I can run the browser plugin. And it's like, wait a minute, why am I doing that? I can just run the proxy server on the machine, and that's literally where it went. And I said these machines, they run. Said I have them set up for the do the automatic upgrades. Other than me just logging into them every so often, I don't touch them. They just run. And like I said, been doing this for over a year. And the biggest concern would be the data consumption, just because like when I first did it, was like, oh, okay, up a little bit of traffic, but now 2.5 to 3 terabytes. It's like, thank God there's no data cap. Because it is a fair amount. And again, same thing with the machine in Ireland. There's some traffic there. It's you watch it and you can actually see the traffic spike every so often. But again, it's a small, it's it's a small, it's like you see the images of the shark versus a single fish versus the bunch of the fish that look like a big fish to the shark. That's kind of what this is. This is built up of these small nodes, and it's every little, whatever people can provide, if they do, helps. It's I thought about, well, I had running it on an Lenovo server, but that's been retired just because it was heating the electrical room. That thing had a decent sized fan on it. So it's like, nope, this is just now desktop PCs, and it works great. Like it's a fun little project, but it's a low effort, project at the end of the day. Like you install it, you set it, and away you go.
Do you view yourself as taking on risk? And let me define risk 2 different ways. One with your network.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned 4,000 failed to ban accounts. Do you think your Tor server increases that number, or would that have been the same number if you were just hosting that VPS? So do you view your network as taking on any risk? And the other way I would ask that question is any legal risk, whether that's through your ISP or legal in the other sense.
And that's part of the reason why I have the VPS is not connected to my home network in any way, shape, or form. It's a little VM over in Dublin. So it's, again, when the failed demand does that thing, that, I don't see any of that traffic on my home network or anything like that. Again, with the guidance that you get from the Tor project, it's just encrypted traffic. You're not actually having the traffic come out, so there's no way, it's not like an exit node where that traffic is coming out and you're seeing that. It's literally a bridge. It's just encrypted traffic going across. And at the end of the day, if there ever was a door knock, yeah, sure, here you go. It's encrypted traffic, and I have no way of, no way of decrypting that. Again, I'm sure if there was an organization with an incredibly large budget, sure, they might have the time. But again, it's encrypted traffic. Nothing is saved there. It's just traffic. So it's a very low risk in the grand scheme of things. And when you read about, I think there was someone this summer, I saw something like there was someone arrested in Michigan, and they were running a tour. I think it was, again, I could be completely wrong, but there was something, I saw it on 2600 one of their Facebook groups, and they were claiming they were trying to get into Buddy's computer, and he was doing something with Tor. I think it was fake news, or it was just misinformation. But at the end of the day, if you have a legal request from a law enforcement organization, your best bet is always to comply if they have a warrant or a production order. But again, something like that, it's just traffic flowing. There's nothing being stored there. It's not coming out from there. It's just simply traffic, that encrypted traffic going through that we can't see. And it's just, at the end of the day, if there ever was that door knock, here you go. Here's the warrant. Okay, great, thank you. That's the way it is. But this is, again, more for people in countries where they have censorship and oppression. I don't think we have to worry about a search warrant or a production order from an oppressive country asking for that, because again, at the end of the day, the node is just simply a bridge. This is not like an exit node. As I was saying, the exit nodes are normally larger organizations like a university or a library or a very large nonprofit. I don't know if the Electronic Freedom Foundation in the United States, for it as an example, I don't know if they're running one, but they would be the size of the nonprofit that would run one, because they have the legal capacity at their fingertips. But yeah, I've done this. I've been doing this for a couple of years and never had any concerns. But again, it's just, all you're doing is providing a bridge in the network. We can't see the traffic. It's encrypted, and the people that would want to know that, they know that as well. So there would be other means, I'm sure, of them trying to gain access. But I don't know anything about those organizations, overseas. So at the end of the day, I don't have any concerns about this. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the traffic will appear as TLS.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is an exit node, does it still appear as TLS?
I don't know what that traffic would look like, because I've never actually seen an exit node in real life or seen what its traffic looks like. Pardon? So there you go. That's where I would imagine then law enforcement or whatever organization would be very interested at that point, because that's where it's getting decrypted, and then they would be able to actually not seize it, but they'd be able to access that information once it is decrypted and out in the open.
So if I were to detect if there is an exit node within my, let's say on my firewall, what should I be looking for?
How do you mean detect it on your?
Let's say if there's an egress port.
I can actually speak to this a little bit from like the defense side. Securities, since all the exit nodes, the IP addresses of them are published. If you're running a web application or something like that, where you're worried about, maybe one of your users has been compromised and perhaps they're being accessed, or like their information is being accessed over the core network or something like that, you can just scan through logs and do matching against the publicly published IP addresses for all the exit nodes. It's also a good way, if you're running exit nodes yourself, to get completely blocked off being able to access like Google and Okta and all that stuff as well. So if you have one of them running inside of your own network, you'll probably know, because a bunch of websites will stop working.
But yeah. Any other questions? Now, if you again, if you have questions, think of something, feel to reach out on the Discord server or drop me an email, and if you can answer it, I will. Awesome. All righty. Thank you.